You are watching Tech and AI Live. Now, we have a great presentation coming up with Karim Jessani, data consultant and CSO for Canada at Kainos. His presentation is titled With Great Power Comes Great Responsibility. Karim is a data consultant working at Kainos, where he leads its data team in North America. He is passionate about helping organizations achieve their governance and cloud goals. Karim has over 2 decades of experience throughout the entire systems development lifecycle, covering data management and information architecture, project and program management, software engineering, and development. Welcome, Karim. It's great to have you here, and thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure is mine. Thank you very much. I feel honored, honestly, to be in the presence of great company.
Thank you so much. And likewise, we've got some great speakers lined up, and you are one of many great people that we've got joining us. So I'll hand over to you now for your presentation.
Awesome. So my presentation is specific on data governance. Why I've said this? Because the tagline fits perfectly to the concept. With great power comes great responsibility. What is that power? It's the power of having data, being the custodian of data, and accepting that responsibility for that data. Many organizations come to me and said, okay, we have a problem. We have a problem in terms of legacy storage, in terms of having no source of truth, in terms of understanding how we can leverage this data, monetize it, as well as come within our regulatory concerns from a data perspective, right? Understanding that how we're going to prepare this data and access it because of these legacy issues that we're tackling on a day-to-day basis. Now, this is a real life story in terms of companies come and say, okay, clients come and say, why do we need a data strategy? I show them this. I came across a record collection that I inherited approximately 25 years ago before I got married. Now, the thing is this, there were 300 records my roommate gave to me and said, okay, take them. Now I'm looking at it. The first record I saw was Lionel Richie dancing on the ceiling and Sade. So I'm like, oh, okay, I like it. Sure, thank you so much. Now, I have opened it up now after this many years. Dust all over it. And here's the picture. How do I discern what is there, what is not there, the value of it, is there a value of it, and as such. This is where I come to data strategy. From a data strategy point of view, you need a foundation. So clients come and say, okay, what do we start off with? So I come and say, okay, first you need a vision. You need a strategy. What are you trying to achieve for that organization? Governance. What governance policies do you have? What controls do you have? What processes do you have within the data realm? How are your standards being met? Do you have any standards, and why don't you have them? From an operation standpoint, yes, you can implement a system or a data governance process, but operationally, how it's going to live on, because you need to have that operational vision in mind. Now, this is key. The organization and the culture has to change. Your culture has to be of a business-centric culture to say your business owners are your owners of your data. So the business has to accept that responsibility to manage it and to enable it, whereas IT now is the facilitator or the partner in managing this data. Once you get that in place, then the visualization comes to play to say, how are we going to visualize this data? How are we going to monetize it? What defines the key values for this data that we need to access? Enterprise architecture. People come up and say, why did you put EA into this? To me, EA is what a master plan is to a city. It helps develop that translation between the business and the IT. So it defines that pattern to say, okay, we have these standards from a technology perspective. How do they relate to a business standpoint, and how do they align? Once you have that in place, then you're going to get data that is complete, high quality, consistent. It will be on time and available. Very important, you'll have the right sources. So that golden source of truth. And amongst everything else, that data will be secure. Once you have this in place, then you're going to have data that has leveraging for reports, BI. The capability map goes from a 1 or a 0 to a 5. The 5 is the machine learning and the AI. Is your data optimized? Is it optimized to a level where you can do machine learning, you can do advanced analytics? Or are you okay with the fact that you have BI and visualization? Then and then only can you have digital transformation. You can build this frictionless customer experience and build and grow your capabilities, thereby also simplifying your organizational process and having innovation. Without the foundation, you're not able to build a top. So organizations come and say, okay, we have this use case. I go back and say, don't worry about the use case. First, understand what your foundation is. How do we build upon that foundation? Going forward then helps to build upon how you develop and grow that capability map. Oh, the next step in the process now is to understand your current state. So I go in asking the organization or the client, what is your engagement model? What is your policies, your procedures from an enabling point of view? So your people and culture. Then comes your data. What is your management strategy from data? How do you manage it? How do you govern it? And what metadata do you have? Metadata meaning data about data. An example is policy number. To me, are you in an organization where it's an insurance company or a bank? Policy number is different between the two, right? From that perspective, understanding what that data is all about enables the business to grow further, or enables the data to be considered more of a monetization perspective. Your operations from a data access and a collection purpose, right? How are you giving access to the many business owners that own this data, right? And restricting it from a GDPR perspective or from a privacy perspective if it's HIPAA or it's PII data, right? Data quality. How do you measure that data quality and your standards? What standards do you have? What tooling do you have from a data quality perspective, right? Initiatives. What are your current solutions from a data standpoint? And after which, your technology. Now, your technology is very, very important, but it's an enabler to get forward through your solution, right? It's not something that you can say. I've had clients that say, okay, we're going to buy A, B, C, D products, right? From a data architecture perspective, from a profiling perspective, and from a visualization perspective. And this will magically somehow work. No, these are identifiers, these are enablers, and these are accelerators towards a data strategy, right? What type of catalog do you have? Are you using a tool like Data Factory, Informatica, whatever the case may be? How is it being leveraged to help move your data across different systems? And is your data protected, right? Especially when you have PII data, how is it encrypted? And how is it protected from a source in transit to a target perspective? These are very key important points. Then back to coming on in terms of where your data is from an agile point of view. Are you at a level 1 in terms of a crawl where you have no governance, you have disparate architecture, your capabilities, you're just not sure, right? What type of point solutions do you have? Do you have point solutions where you're just coming across solutions that say, I'm going to tackle this problem, I'm going to tackle this problem, and I'm going to tackle this problem? No, you have to tackle it from an enterprise point of view. Then your solution can be leveraged throughout all business units, right? So I come in and say, okay, you have to go from a crawl to a walk. Are you okay with the jog? No problem, right? Let's create that standardized business glossary. Let's enable that data literacy and have a consolidated infrastructure, not silos, right? As well as have a standardized process across the organization from an architecture review point, specifically saying we're going to have a DARB, right? To say addressing architecture from data, right? And saying how is that used as an accelerant? Because lots of organizations come and say, oh gosh, data governance, how are we going to leverage this? And you're just going to put firewalls. No. If you were looking at it and if your process or your strategy for data governance enables you or has processes in place that stop you from doing your work, I think it's a wrong thing to do. For me, I look at it as an accelerant. So I go to organizations and say, if it's not like oil, putting it on fire, then you're doing it wrong. Because to me, organizations should have looking at data leverage, data governance as an accelerant to help you go from crawl all the way up to fly. Understanding one thing, this is a continuous living model. So once you're at sprint or fly or even at jog, you have to continuously upgrade your knowledge, continuously address issues, or you will go back to a crawl, which is happening all the time consistently. Now, a use case is I'm working with a client, it's an insurance client. Their key issue was the fact that their legacy systems needed to be replaced. They had mainframe, COBOL, and they had no current state architecture, no governance standards, and limited change processes. They had multiple copies of a customer, so their SSOT was not defined at all. And they had Workday as their target system. So how do I move data from a legacy system into Workday? And there were already an existing client of Workday, and they had a tenant there. But they had different desperate systems, and they wanted to reduce the legacy need of these systems or the reliance because of the cost and go on to a modernized HRMS system. How do they go about doing it? So they came to me and said, okay, what do we do? I came back and said, first of all, you need to have a current state of architecture artifacts. I need to understand your problem. Once I understand your problem, we need to work together as a partner to deliver the solution, right? Giving that delivery team that confidence, applying agile methods. So looking at lowest hanging fruits to say, okay, we're going to look at this common source. We're going to look at the current state and see what the difference is, what the data architecture is, what standards do you have in place? Do you have profiling? Once you understand what you have in terms of your data, then you can say, okay, we're going to have PII data. Oh, we do have PII data. Now we have to be compliant. We need the data to be secure and stable to move on to an AWS data platform and a data platform that can be leveraged across the enterprise, which is key. In addition to that, their benefit by having that enterprise data platform was they have a 360 view of a customer, claims, and records. So now they know when Karim Jessani has a claim and is basically going for a pharmaceutical drug or something, he goes to a pharmacy and he has these many drugs, they know the view of that client. They know the records of that client and the history, thereby determining the requirements for that client. They're adhering to regulatory statutes. That was key, right? Their data is completely secure. They have data domains now, and different business units are able to leverage that data in their business units specific to that data that they require. In addition, because now it's a data platform, having data moving from a legacy system into a cloud system, you get accurate data, you get real-time access, and they have confidence in their data, right? Because they have defined their own terms from an endpoint or from a target data architecture standpoint. It now meets strict privacy and security criteria needed for customer data to be housed on the cloud. Lastly, the deliverables or the artifacts as a result of this governance is an enterprise business glossary. Why is that important? Some people might ask. Well, I'll tell you. One is key. You have something, let's say, favorite example, policy number, right? And it's an insurance company. They use legacy systems. They use Guidewire. They use many different systems. Now, they go into a governance tool. They type in the word policy underscore number. The tool comes up now with the definition of policy number. It comes up with where it is in the different systems. So now they're able to see, oh, this field is here in this application, it's here in this application, it's here. But the golden source of truth is in this application. That's important. In addition, a data dictionary to understand what every column in this data platform is. So now a different business unit comes in, let's say actuary. They come in and say, oh, okay, what are these business units called? What is these columns called? Oh, and these are in business terminology forms. That's phenomenal. In addition to that, we've leveraged enterprise data models. From that perspective, my idea is to say, why reinvent the wheel, right? You're leveraging a model, you're inventing something that should not be reinvented. You're not creating a whole new phone, right? In the same way, leverage a model, leverage a pattern that is being leveraged throughout different organizations. CDOs then come, okay, Karim, what's your plan of attack? What is my next step? What should I do? The next step is first, develop a plan of attack. Assemble your team of superheroes, the data governance team. So IT and business is key. Once you have that team and you have that plan of attack, then you eliminate your villains. Identify what your villains are, whether it be dark data, whether it be PHI data that has not been identified, will it be ROT, whatever it is. Identify and eliminate. Once you do that, then you go to the next battle, which is review, re-energize, encountering the next adventure. Understand what you've done so you can apply that knowledge in a future battle. Now, coming back to why do we need a data strategy again? So, coming back to this picture, excuse me. So what happened was, I looked at this picture and said, okay, let's bring up an Excel spreadsheet. Let's type in all these records with the artists and the names and figure this thing out. 5 minutes into this, my daughter told me, Dad, there has to be a better way. You should not be doing this. I found an app. The app now will allow me to scan the UPC code of every single album. Understand that. Once I do that, the app has now, I think, 10 million users. So first of all, I scan each album. So it tells me all my assets I have. It tells me I have a David Bowie, a Lionel Richie, a Sade, blah, blah, blah. It tells me when it was released, what the album is, what the songs are in it, as well as what in the marketplace is the value of that album or the vinyl. Now, I have the concept of data as an asset, right? Coming to that, this is what my vinyls are worth. I have a vinyl for Stray Cats, Built for Speed. I have a Rocky Horror Picture Show. I have Smiths, Eurythmics, Sweet Dreams. Now, believe it or not, I have not heard of Smiths until my manager told me, man, this is a very popular vinyl. And I'm like, you know, I really did not hear of this. I have Supertramp. Now, most importantly, believe it or not, I have the bottom right-hand corner, an Abbey Road limited edition green vinyl. That I think is so cool. Understand now that I have realized that this vinyl collection now is worth this much money and have realized that data now is an asset. Thank you very much. I am done.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Karim. Really interesting. And I would like looking at your music collection, also equally interesting. So we've got a few questions. So I've got a few questions here, and then we'll move on to some audience questions. So in terms of data governance, would you happen to have any real life examples of the consequences of bad data governance versus good data governance?
Oh, yes, I do. So I have a machine. Now I've looked at the current data architecture of this client and come across a model. The model represents what the architecture has. In this model, this client has tables that are called table, columns that are called column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, believe it or not. In addition to that, the model has different lines of no referential integrity. So understanding that there's, if you look at the small bits here, that's not connected at all to anything, right? Whereas if I look here, this is what I see, just lines everywhere. That's not good. In addition, I give this model to the business. They don't know something like ACO underscore COV, whatever the case may be. It's just googly guy and they get all confused. So I came back and said, okay, let's make more sense out of this. Let's make this into a standardized concept to say, here's a model. I walk through it with the business to say, okay, here's the common terminologies. You name what you think is right. An example, policy number. So this is all clickable, given to the business, right, Catherine? I click on this. Oh, lo and behold, I got policy number. In addition, it has the metadata of what the policy number is and sample policy numbers. Hence, now a different business unit can come in and say, okay, I'm not sure if I need this data into my report or do I not need it? And how do I relate the two together? Right? So a difference between bad and good data governance. The fact that with a good data governance strategy, you're going to get more acceleration from a visualization perspective, more adherence to the data, as well as you're going to have regulatory compliance, which is key to both private and public organizations, right?
No, definitely. So thank you for that. So something else I would be keen to kind of look at any examples that you might have is, so from a value proposition perspective, what value can data governance have on organizations? And if you've got any more great examples for us, that would also be fab.
Oh, let me think. Okay, a value of why we wanted to do data governance. Here's real time of what it is, okay? This, again, clickable. I've leveraged it, set up with the business, so now the business needs to leverage it, right? I give this power back to the business because they know the data, I don't, right? Now, in terms of the value, I'll tell you, I give them access to a table. I tell them, okay, here's your table. Now, do you know anything about your data? And they say, okay, we know we have a policy number, we know we have a branch code, and we know we need to move to a target state, right? Whether it be Workday, whether it be whatever target state you want to move it to. And it's just not working. We're not able to move the data. I don't know why. And they have no visualization to their data. So giving them this, now I go into something like branch code, which is a one-to-one mapping into Workday, right? Going in, I tell them, okay, let's look at these values. They're like, oh gosh, you can actually do a real-time analysis and give me data on our data. And I said, yes, let's look at this. Going across, I see the fact that, oh gosh, you guys have a 1, 2, and a 9. That's not right. And they're like, oh no, those are stagglers we never even knew about because they were done like 20 years ago. Hence now, you come up with a value or you come up with the answer to your problem, right? So now my solution is, do you want to change it at the source? Do you want that 1 to be an L in the source? Or would you like to have the source remain the same? I can add a transformation to say 1 will become an L, 2 will become a B, and 9 will become a K. So that way now you have a real-time movement of data. You have data lineage, so you know what the data is moving into, right? Across the board, because you're leveraging enterprise tools. And going into Workday, it's now not failing, right? Because it's expecting values that it now knows they're right, right? In the same way, if you have state code, right, as a better example. So it's similar to that nature to say, here's the value of this data, and this is what you need to do. Once you have that insight into the data or into your source or target systems, hence you get that knowledge or that extra value to say how you can accelerate your project. Would that be okay as an answer?
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Brilliant. So that, I think those examples were really, really helpful. So thank you. And we do have some audience questions. I'm keeping an eye on the time. We might have one for 1, maybe 2 if we're lucky. So one that's come through says, many describe data as the new oil. So why do you think that is a kind of a phrase that has come out when concerning data?
Oh, I love the question, man. Okay, relates back completely to my presentation, right? To say now, before, we never understood data as a value proposition. We never understood data to be something that needs to be monetized. Take a picture of my album set. I did the scan. Now I realize it is the new oil, right? To say I've held it on for this long, and unbeknownst to me, in like 3/4 of the pile down of 300 vinyls, I come across the Abbey Road one, right? To say now this is oil, right? This is the value, and this is what you need to leverage, or how you need to leverage that oil to go forward with it, right? From a marketing standpoint, from a return on investment standpoint, there are so many aspects to this data, right? Catherine, one thing is that in North America, banks, as a great example, right? In the UK, it would be the same way, that when I had a bank, I have my current bank, they knew my data history all the way from when I'm in university till now. It's all in legacy systems, right? Now, wouldn't it be cool that if I was in their system and I'm in their system at 15, at 18, they tell me, or let's say 25, they realize, oh, I'm buying all this wedding stuff. You need a mortgage for a house. I think you should be looking for a house proactively, right? Or from a car perspective, I'm looking online and they're like, you know what? You're looking online and you're eligible for this car loan. You don't even have to wait 1 hour to get through this car loan. You have such a big history with us. You know what? You're automatically qualified. Come. We'll give you the loan. Hence, the concept of data as oil.
Definitely. I think the opportunities with it are almost endless, but
yeah,
definitely. So maybe one quick question. So I definitely think this one's going to have to be a succinct answer. So I think from the questions that we've got, this one's probably the best one for that. So if you've got one nugget of advice to give to someone who's starting out with their data strategy, what would it be?
Do not try to boil the ocean, okay? Many consultants or organizations or SIs will come to you to say, let's just do everything. Do not, right? Just take a step back. Because, Catherine, I've come across different organizations and they've come to me as a last resort because they've talked about data governance. They've moved all their data into the cloud and they're stuck. Why? Because they did a lift and shift and they never thought out the process. Think out the process and ensure the fact that you treat data as an asset, right? And it's a bad saying, Rome wasn't built in a day, okay? So it is a journey, right? Treat it as a journey, but expect results in the end. There has to be an expectation of results in the end, right? Not in the end, but also from an agile perspective, like I said before, right? For me, it's low-hanging fruits. Assemble a small team. Just do small things, because you know what? It's a drug, Catherine. I'm telling you. I go into organizations, show them this stuff, and I have projects lining up and say, can we please be a part of this? Because we realize the purple juice that you're selling, right? In the same way, you have to show it that way, right? You have to emphasize the fact it's not a deterrent, because governance, when I talk to people, oh gosh, it's a firewall. It's going to stop our project from going forward. You're going to mess us up. No, it's an accelerant. Understand that. If there's any takeaway, it's an accelerant. And lastly, I'm a big Marvel Star Wars fan, okay? Understand that great power comes great responsibility. The fact that you have access to this data gives you great power. Please don't abuse that power and treat it responsibly.
Brilliant. So we're going to have to wrap it up really quickly because we're just about to go over time. But thank you so much for your passionate presentation, Karim. It's been great listening to you. So thank you for taking the time to speak to us today.
Thank you so much for having me. And again, I would like to say it's an honor to be part of this, such a distinguished group your company has organized and brought forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And yeah, thanks to the audience for watching as well. Make sure you stay tuned to check out the rest of our speakers that we've got lined up at Tech and AI Live. Thank you.